Before we dive in, make sure you hit that subscribe button and ring the bell so you never miss our deep dives into WWE's wildest and most controversial history. In the world of WWE, pushing the envelope is the business model. But sometimes in the hunt for ratings, the line between entertainment and irresponsible, dangerous, or just plain wrong gets completely obliterated. WWE's history is littered with moments that went so far beyond good taste that you have to ask, how did this ever make it to air? Today we're counting down 10 WWE moments that were so out of line, they absolutely should have been banned. Number 10, Heidenreich and Michael Cole, 2004. Kicking off our list is a segment so bizarrely uncomfortable, it has lived in infamy for 2 decades. Involving the monster Heidenreich and announcer Michael Cole. The year was 2004, and one of SmackDown's newest figures was Heidenreich, an unhinged powerhouse. On the September 16th, 2004 episode of SmackDown, his menacing focus shifted from wrestlers to the commentary desk. Heidenreich stormed out of the crowd, snatched Michael Cole from his chair, and dragged him backstage. What followed left audiences stunned. The camera cut to a dimly lit room where Heidenreich had Cole pinned against a wall. With Cole looking genuinely terrified, Heidenreich began grinding against him in a scene that heavily implied a sexual assault was taking place. He told Cole that he knew they had the same desires and that he was going to give Cole what he wanted. The camera cut away, leaving viewers mortified. The segment was supposed to be shocking, but landed squarely in the realm of disturbing and offensive. The backlash was immediate. Fans were repulsed, not entertained. The implication of sexual violence was a step too far. In a 2008 interview, Heidenreich revealed that WWE chairman Vince McMahon had literally dreamed up the idea. According to him, Stephanie McMahon pitched him the concept, which he bizarrely compared to a scene from Pulp Fiction. The fact that such a disturbing idea came from the top of the company and was greenlit without a second thought is precisely why it's on this list. It served no real storyline purpose and remains one of the most cringeworthy moments in SmackDown history. Number 9, The Big Boss Man crashes a funeral, 1999. Next up is a moment that perfectly captures the crash TV philosophy of the Attitude Era. In late 1999, the feud between The Big Show and The Big Boss Man went from a typical rivalry to something out of a dark comedy. The storyline took a bizarre turn when it was announced that The Big Show's father had passed away. On the November 11th, 1999, episode of SmackDown, WWE aired footage from the funeral. As a grieving Big Show delivered a eulogy, he was interrupted by the Big Boss Man, who proceeded to taunt Big Show and his family with a giant loudspeaker. He hurled insults at Show's mother before escalating things further. What followed was pure chaos. Boss Man attached a chain from his car to the casket and hit the gas, dragging the coffin across the cemetery lawn. In a moment that was both horrifying and absurd, a desperate Big Show leaped onto the casket, surfing on his father's coffin before tumbling off as Boss Man sped away. This was Attitude Era shock value at its most extreme. To make matters worse, according to producer Bruce Pritchard, this was filmed at a real cemetery while an actual funeral service was taking place nearby. Thankfully, Big Show's father had not actually passed away in real life, but that does little to excuse an angle built around mocking death for cheap heat. It was a storyline so profoundly disrespectful that it stands as one of the era's most infamous moments. Number 8, The Fabulous Moolah Memorial Battle Royal, 2018. At number 8, we have a case where WWE's attempt to honor a legend blew up in its face, forcing a rare and public U-turn. This was the disastrous creation and swift destruction of the Fabulous Moolah Memorial Battle Royal. In March 2018, WWE announced a historic women's battle royal for WrestleMania 34, naming it after Hall of Famer the Fabulous Moolah. On paper, it seemed like a fitting tribute. However, the announcement was met with immediate and furious backlash from fans aware of the dark allegations staining Moolah's legacy. The accusations against Moolah are gut-wrenching. Multiple wrestlers have accused her of financial exploitation, taking huge booking fees and charging exorbitant rent. Far worse are the allegations of sexual exploitation. Several wrestlers in the family of the late Sweet Georgia Brown have claimed that Moolah pimped out women under her control to promoters, sometimes after drugging them. She was also accused of sabotaging the careers of anyone who threatened her top spot. Fans flooded social media, disgusted that WWE would honor someone with such a predatory history. The outrage campaign blew up, and fans contacted WrestleMania's main sponsor, Snickers. It worked. Mars Wrigley, Snickers' parent company, released a statement calling the decision unacceptable. Facing a PR firestorm and sponsor pressure, WWE caved. Just days after the announcement, the company renamed the match the WrestleMania Women's Battle Royal. It was a massive embarrassment that exposed either a shocking lack of research or a willful ignorance of Moolah's dark legacy, making the initial idea something that should have been banned from the start. Number 7. Vince McMahon vs. Stephanie McMahon, I Quit match, 2003. Family drama is wrestling's bread and butter, but at the 2003 No Mercy pay-per-view, WWE presented a feud that crossed into deeply uncomfortable territory. A father versus daughter I Quit match between Vince and Stephanie McMahon. The storyline was a power struggle between Stephanie, the fan-favorite general manager of SmackDown, and her tyrannical father, Vince. To punish her for defying him, Vince booked himself against her in one of wrestling's most brutal match types, with her job on the line. The execution, on October 19, 2003, was a queasy spectacle of simulated domestic abuse. Vince, then in his late 50s, systematically brutalized his daughter, beating her with a lead pipe. The imagery was unsettling, a powerful man inflicting graphic violence on his own child. The whole thing felt like a twisted family therapy session, played out as a blood sport, with Vince's wife Linda in Stephanie's corner and his on-screen mistress Sable in his. The climax was the most disturbing part. Vince wrapped a lead pipe around Stephanie's throat and began choking her. As she started to pass out, her horrified mother Linda threw in the towel, giving Vince the win. The sight of a father choking his daughter unconscious was too much for many. The story gets darker when you hear what was reportedly pitched. The initial idea for the feud allegedly involved an incest storyline, where Vince would be revealed as the father of Stephanie's unborn child. While that horrifying idea was shot down, the I Quit match that aired was still a monument to bad taste that had no business being on a pay-per-view. Number 6. The Muhammad Hassan Controversy, 2005. At number 6 is a character and storyline so toxic, a major TV network had to step in and demand it be taken off the air. The saga of Muhammad Hassan. In late 2004, WWE introduced Muhammad Hassan, an Arab-American wrestler fed up with the prejudice he faced in post-9/11 America. Initially, the gimmick was nuanced, as he was an American citizen voicing legitimate frustrations. But subtlety was soon thrown out for cheap heat, and Hassan's character devolved into a generic, anti-American caricature. The whole thing reached a catastrophic breaking point on a SmackDown episode taped on July 4, 2005. In a segment building his match with The Undertaker, Hassan summoned 5 men in ski masks and camouflage pants. These men ambushed The Undertaker, beating him senseless and choking him out with a piano wire. The timing could not have been worse. The show aired on the UPN network on July 7, 2005, the very same day as the London bombings, a series of real-world terrorist attacks that killed 52 people. In the wake of that tragedy, airing a segment that looked like a simulated terrorist act by masked Middle Eastern-coded men was beyond irresponsible. The backlash was massive. The media condemned WWE and UPN under incredible pressure, demanded the Hassan character be removed from its network immediately. WWE had no choice but to kill the character. At the Great American Bash, The Undertaker destroyed Hassan, symbolically ending his career. The performer Mark Kapani was never seen on WWE television again. The angle is a textbook case of a provocative idea turning into a harmful stereotype for a quick reaction, and its final segment is one that never should have aired. We're halfway through our list of moments that went way too far. If you're finding this look into WWE's controversial, past interesting, hit that like button and let us know in the comments which moment has shocked you the most so far. Now back to the countdown. Number 5, the Montreal Screwjob, 1997. Number 5 is perhaps the most famous and industry-altering real moment in wrestling history, shattering the line between fiction and reality. This was the Montreal Screwjob. The stage was Survivor Series, November 9, 1997, in Montreal, Canada. The main event was for the WWF Championship. Champion Bret the Hitman Hart versus his real-life nemesis, Shawn Michaels. The backstory was explosive. Bret, a WWF loyalist and Canadian hero, was leaving for rival WCW. This created a problem for WWF owner Vince McMahon, who couldn't risk his champion appearing on WCW television with the WWF title. But Bret had creative control and was adamant he would not lose his title to Shawn Michaels in Canada. According to Bret, he and Vince agreed to a finish that would end in a disqualification. But Vince, fearing betrayal, decided to betray Bret first. In a secret plot with Michaels and referee Earl Hebner, among others, Vince planned to strip the title from Bret without his knowledge. Late in the match, Michaels locked Hart in his own signature move, the sharpshooter. This wasn't the planned finish, but as soon as the hold was applied, referee Earl Hebner, on Vince's direct order, screamed for the bell. The match was over. Shawn Michaels was the new champion. A bewildered Bret Hart realized he'd been double-crossed, and a furious Hart spat directly in Vince McMahon's face. Backstage, the anger boiled over, and Hart reportedly punched McMahon. While it accidentally birthed the evil Mr. McMahon character, it was a total breakdown of trust between a promoter and his top star. For its sheer, cold-blooded treachery, the Montreal Screwjob is a moment that, from a moral standpoint, should never have happened. Number 4, Hulk Hogan's racist rant and sex tape scandal. Our fourth entry isn't an on-screen moment, but a real-life scandal so poisonous it forced WWE to banish its biggest icon. This was the discovery of Hulk Hogan's racist tirade. For decades, Hulk Hogan was a red and yellow superhero to a generation. But in 2015, that legacy came crashing down. The scandal started when Gawker published a clip from a secretly recorded sex tape, but the career-ending bomb dropped 3 years later. In July 2015, during the legal battle over the tape, transcripts were released containing audio of Hogan on a disgusting racist rant. In the recording, Hogan repeatedly used the N-word while complaining about his daughter Brooke's love life and said point blank, "I am a racist." The revelation was a bombshell. The consequences were immediate. Within hours, WWE terminated Hogan's contract. They scrubbed almost every mention of him from their website, pulled his merchandise, and cut his role as a judge on a reality show. The company released a statement saying WWE is committed to embracing and celebrating individuals from all backgrounds. Hogan apologized, calling his language unacceptable and insisting, "This is not who I am." But the damage was done. For 3 years, the biggest name in wrestling history was persona non grata in the company he built. While WWE did eventually reinstate him to the Hall of Fame in 2018, the scandal remains a permanent stain, forcing WWE to acknowledge that the hate he spewed was indefensible. Number 3, the Katie Vick storyline, 2002. At number 3 is a storyline so universally despised and grotesquely offensive that it became the gold standard for bad WWE ideas. The putrid and irredeemable Katie Vick storyline. The year was 2002, and the feud between Triple H and Kane needed heat. The angle began on the October 7, 2002 episode of Raw, with Triple H accusing Kane of murdering a woman named Katie Vick years earlier. A week later, Kane explained it was a tragic car accident. That should have been it. But Triple H posed a sickening question. After the crash, did Kane have sex with her corpse? It was repulsive, but what came next cemented this as an all-time low. On the October 21st episode of Raw, Triple H presented a video showing himself, dressed in a Kane costume, entering a funeral home. What followed was a simulated act of necrophilia with a mannequin in a casket meant to be Katie Vick. The reaction from everyone was utter disgust. Backstage, people were reportedly groaning as the pre-tape segment aired. According to Bruce Pritchard, Vince McMahon himself insisted on the serious depiction of necrophilia, believing that's where the real comedy was. Triple H and others reportedly begged Vince not to air it, but he refused. The Katie Vick storyline was creative malpractice. It was offensive, disgusting, and served zero purpose other than shock for shock's sake. It is the textbook example of a moment that should have been banned, burned, and buried forever. Number 2. Mick Foley's Hell in a Cell Falls, 1998. At number 2 is a moment that is both iconic and terrifyingly irresponsible. This wasn't a moral failure, but a failure in the basic duty to protect a performer from himself. We're talking about Mick Foley's 2 insane falls during his Hell in a Cell match against The Undertaker at King of the Ring 1998. Mick Foley, as Mankind, was famous for his tolerance for pain, but on June 28, 1998, he pushed past the breaking point. Just minutes into the match, The Undertaker threw him from the roof of the 16-foot-high structure, sending him plummeting through the Spanish announce table. The sight was horrifying. Jim Ross's legendary call, "Good God Almighty!" that killed him. As God is my witness, he is broken in half, captured the sheer terror. Medics surrounded Foley ready to stretcher him out. It was already a career-defining stunt, but Foley wasn't done. He got to his feet and climbed back to the top of the cell. What happened next was an accident. The Undertaker chokeslammed Foley onto the cell's roof panel, which wasn't supposed to collapse entirely, but it did. Foley crashed through the steel, falling another 10 feet into the ring. A steel chair followed him down, smashing into his face and knocking out his teeth. He was knocked unconscious. Miraculously, Foley came to and finished the match. His list of injuries was horrific: a concussion, dislocated shoulder and jaw, bruised ribs, internal bleeding, and lost teeth. While this match made Foley a legend, allowing a man who just took that first fall to climb back up was a catastrophic failure in performer safety. It stands as a terrifying monument to an era that valued spectacle over sanity. Number 1, the Janelle Grant lawsuit and Vince McMahon scandal, 2024. And at number 1 is the darkest story in WWE's history. This is a real-world scandal with allegations so heinous, they forced the most powerful man in wrestling out of his empire. This is the Janelle Grant lawsuit against Vince McMahon. On January 25, 2024, former WWE employee Janelle Grant filed a lawsuit against Vince McMahon, WWE, and former executive John Laurinaitis. The complaint detailed years of alleged sexual assault, emotional abuse, and sex trafficking. The allegations are sickening. Grant claims McMahon lured her into a WWE job that depended on her submitting to his extreme sexual demands. The lawsuit alleges McMahon engaged in acts of extreme cruelty and degradation, including trafficking her to other men like Laurinaitis. The suit details a horrifying incident where McMahon and Laurinaitis allegedly sexually assaulted her in an office at WWE headquarters. It includes screenshots of graphic text messages and alleges McMahon shared explicit photos and videos of her without consent. In one of the most depraved allegations, the suit claims McMahon defecated on Grant's head during a sexual encounter. The alleged abuse reportedly continued from 2019 to 2022. It only ended when McMahon's wife discovered the affair, at which point McMahon allegedly pressured Grant into a $3 million NDA, of which she claims she only received $1 million. The fallout was seismic. The day after the lawsuit was filed, Vince McMahon resigned from his position as executive chairman of TKO, WWE's parent company, ending his career. Both McMahon and Laurinaitis deny the allegations. This scandal is number 1 because it transcends any on-screen horror. These are credible, horrific allegations suggesting a deeply toxic culture under his leadership, representing the absolute darkest chapter in WWE history. From dangerous stunts to offensive storylines, and culminating in the horrific real-world allegations that brought down an empire, these moments are stark reminders that WWE's quest for the spotlight has sometimes gone way too far. Professional wrestling is built on pushing boundaries, But these 10 instances show what happens when that line is crossed, when entertainment becomes genuinely unethical, unsafe, or morally bankrupt. They are the moments that have been scrubbed from history, disavowed by the company, or stand as permanent stains on its legacy. They are the moments that, for the safety and decency of everyone involved, truly should have been banned. But what do you think? Are there any shocking moments we missed? Which incident on our list do you find the most outrageous? Let us know in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this look into the darker side of wrestling, be sure to hit that like button and subscribe for more deep dives into the world of WWE. Thanks for watching. Thanks.